Tell me this doesn't feel like one of those weeks where every storyline in Formula One collides at once. A blunt Guenther-Steiner soundbite. McLaren's papaya rules under the microscope. Red Bull scrambling to squash a rumor. A local federation publicly calling out a driver. Hamilton lighting up the radio and the paddock. Verstappen walking away unfazed with another result and a one-liner. It's spicy, it's messy, and it might just shape how the final stretch of this season plays out. Guenther-Steiner does not tiptoe, and this time he lit a match under McLaren on live air. In a stinging interview, the former Haas boss said the papaya rules are made for Max, basically accusing McLaren of, without realizing it, helping Verstappen win the title. That line dropped like a bomb and instantly ratcheted up the tension between Woking and Milton Keynes. Steiner didn't sugarcoat it. Max Verstappen's best ally for this title is McLaren. He said it right after Mexico, where Verstappen cut the gap to Lando Norris to just 36 points. And Steiner's logic? McLaren is sabotaging itself. While Max strings together wins and relentless consistency, Norris and Piastri keep stealing points off each other, tangling in internal fights that only ever end one way, in the Dutchman's favor. The standout example was their contact in the United States sprint. Points thrown away not by pace, but by sheer stubbornness. Steiner twisted the knife. We all know Lando isn't the most consistent point scorer, right? So why would he suddenly be the top performer every time? It was direct and brutal. Norris can be brilliant, Steiner said, then patchy. Max, on the other hand, is a machine. If he doesn't win, he's second. If he's not second, he's third. He always delivers. The message couldn't be louder. McLaren is turning into its own worst enemy, and Verstappen is loving every second from the other side of the garage wall. That provocation detonated a bigger paddock debate. Do McLaren need to pick a number one driver now? Because if they don't, the title may slip through their fingers, and worse, land in exactly the hands they've been trying to pry it away from for months. And while that brush fire burned, another one sparked in Milton Keynes. Yuki Tsunoda, yes, the Japanese driver in the Red Bull camp, managed to cause chaos inside his own organization by blurting out something that, according to the people in charge, simply doesn't exist. He was quickly contradicted by one of the team's senior figures. It started when Tsunoda casually told people behind the scenes that Red Bull's 2026 car was going to be an absolute rocket, hinting that they already had a dominant project lined up for the new hybrid era. That's when Mark Hazelton, the team's head of security and a powerful internal voice, cut the story off at the roots. I wouldn't say we have a rocket for next year, he said in an interview. Of course we want to win, but there's still a lot of work to do. Translation: either Yuki overshared, or he simply made it up. What he might think of as an innocent boast detonated a mini panic internally, because Red Bull is stepping into totally new territory. For the first time, the power unit will be developed entirely in-house at Milton Keynes in partnership with Ford. And the most explosive whisper circling the paddock right now? Some insiders are worried about that engine. There are claims that Red Bull powertrains could be as much as 2/10 off Mercedes to start the new regulations. That would be huge, especially when Max Verstappen's future is so tightly tethered to this project landing fully formed, fast, and bulletproof. Meanwhile, Tsunoda is walking a tightrope. He actually looked sharp in Mexico. His race pace approached Max at moments. But he didn't score. And patience inside the camp feels thin. The team has already said a final decision on his seat won't come until after Abu Dhabi, and every sign points to Isaac Hajar waiting in the wings. Laurent Mekies praised Tsunoda's weekend, but the subtext in his words was unmistakable. Good job, but the door to our juniors is wide open. It's the kind of line that keeps a driver up at night. And then Mexico became a political minefield for a completely different reason. The target this time, Liam Lawson. The New Zealander, fighting to cement a long-term place on the grid with Racing Bulls, suddenly finds himself under international pressure after the Mexican Motorsport Federation publicly accused him of endangering lives during the race. What many thought was a breakdown between race control and the marshals turned into a direct accusation aimed squarely at the driver. The FMDA released an official statement saying Lawson failed to slow under double-waved yellows, insisting the onboard showed him holding his line and steering angle with marshals ahead on the track. In short, Mexico says Lawson got it wrong and put people at risk. The reaction was fiery. This is a painfully sensitive topic in a sport that never gets its worst days. Fans and officials in Mexico came hard on social media, accusing Lawson of negligence and disrespect towards the people who literally protect drivers' lives. The FIA went straight into crisis mode, opening a full investigation and pledging to dig into communication between race control and the marshals. Behind the scenes, tension is brewing between the FIA and the Mexican body, which is adamant the fault lies entirely with the driver. And here's the spark that makes this even hotter. Red Bull are reportedly uncomfortable too. They've been evaluating Lawson for a permanent 2026 slot. Now they worry this could stain his reputation and, equally important, strain the team's relationship with a key promoter, because Mexico is one of the calendar's crown jewels. Lawson's radio after the incident tells you how shaken he was. "You're kidding me. I almost hit them," he blurted. After the race, still rattled, he said, "I've never seen anything like that. It was incredibly dangerous. I don't understand how anyone cleared marshals to cross with cars at speed." Mexico's federation disagrees and doubled down in writing, calling the footage clear and insisting his line didn't change despite visible marshals ahead. It's ugly, and it's not going away quickly. As all of that was unfolding, Lewis Hamilton fired a broadside. He's taken heat internally for being unpredictable this season, but this time he aimed straight at the governing body. The 7-time world champion was livid with the 10-second penalty he got after his fight with Verstappen, and he didn't hold back. "I feel betrayed. This is a clear case of double standards." In Hamilton's view, the FIA are picking and choosing how to interpret the rules depending on who's involved. He argued Max was allowed to attack aggressively and walk away unpunished while he was penalized, even though, in his mind, he was trying to avoid contact. That set off its own brushfire. Martin Brundle was unequivocal on Sky. The penalty was deserved. Brundle said many wouldn't like it, but in his eyes, Hamilton left the door open and Verstappen had the right to the racing line. Hamilton then cut the corner, gained ground, and never properly gave the advantage back. In that scenario, 10 seconds is the bare minimum. Jacques Villeneuve went even harder. He came out with a 100-meter advantage and didn't try to give anything back. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Those words hit Maranello like a thunderclap. Inside Ferrari, there's a growing fear that Hamilton's posture is turning into a political headache. Some engineers are said to be unhappy with how public he's become in criticizing the FIA. And the tension with Charles Leclerc ticked up again, especially after the Monegasque climbed the podium while Hamilton finished only 8th. Sources close to race direction say Hamilton may be steering toward a direct collision course with the stewards. There's already chatter about a private sit-down ahead of Brazil to cool everything down. And through it all, Verstappen did what Verstappen does. He ignored the drama, banked another podium, and when asked about the clash, dropped a line with signature frost. "I didn't know I had to brake when I'm ahead." Call it smug, call it stone cold. Either way, it's the reaction of a driver who knows the scoreboard is the only argument that matters. He's reduced the gap to Norris. He's put pressure on McLaren's internal truce, and he's done it while the rest of the paddock argues about everything except how to beat him on Sunday. So where does that leave us? With Steiner poking McLaren's open wound, the question of a #1 policy is no longer academic. Every lap Norris and Piastri fight each other is a lap that helps Verstappen. Every in-house collision, literal or strategic, nudges the title his way. With Tsunoda, one careless comment turned into a reminder of just how fragile Red Bull's 2026 leap will be. They can't afford loose lips, and they definitely can't afford a slow engine. With Lawson, Mexico's federation raising the stakes publicly forces the FIA to either back the driver or back the national body. There's no painless path, and reputations are on the line. With Hamilton, the clash with stewards and the media crossfire from ex-champions drags Ferrari into a political headache they thought they'd left behind. And with Verstappen, the pattern stays the same. While everyone else fights, he keeps scoring. You want the blunt takeaway? This was the week the paddock told on itself. McLaren's unity is conditional and cracking under pressure. Red Bull's 2026 project is confident on the outside, anxious on the inside. The FIA's communication around safety and penalties still isn't convincing enough to shut down public controversy. Ferrari has to manage a superstar who refuses to be quiet, and a teammate who keeps outscoring him when it matters. And Verstappen, with that grin that drives rivals mad, keeps walking out of the chaos a little closer to the crown. If you're McLaren, you can't let Steiner live rent-free in your head, but you also can't ignore the truth hidden in his jab. Titles are won by teams that decide. If you're Red Bull, you clamp down on the 2026 noise, align the messaging, and sprint on the dynos. If you're Lawson, you let the FIA process play out and stay silent in public. Every word now is a headline you don't need. If you're Ferrari, you get Lewis and Charles in a room, align the language, and stop bleeding points to politics. And if you're Max, you keep doing exactly what you're doing. Score, smile, repeat. Because when the dust settles, the standings won't care who shouted loudest. They'll only remember who made the smartest choices when the pressure spiked and who didn't blink.